Did you know that after veterans have served in the military, have been honorably discharged, and filed claims for injury sustained during active duty, it may take years before they're awarded the compensation to which they are entitled? If you're a veteran or you know one, you won't want to miss today's program. My name is Yvonne Lewis, and you're watching Urban Report. Hello and welcome to Urban Report. Many veterans are homeless, unemployed, and living with untreated disabilities due to the backlog of more than 900 claims. It currently takes more than a year for a veteran to receive a response from the VA relative to their claim filed, and usually the response is simply asking for additional information. My guest today is Anna Towns, a United States Veterans Administration accredited attorney. That's a long title. She's going to tell us more about this disservice. Welcome to Urban Report, Anna.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, Yvonne.
Oh, AT, that's what I call you, AT.
Yes.
I have to tell our viewers that you and I go way back. I met you when I was an intern. You were already a social worker, and I was an intern getting my master's in social work. Right. I met you at my internship site.
Yes.
And we became fast friends. I found out that you sang. AT has a lovely voice. Are you still singing, AT?
Yes, of course.
Oh, great.
Uh-huh.
And then I was in this group, the Futuristics, and then
that's right.
I left, and I asked them to bring you into the group, and you and I sang together with them for a while, and then I had to leave.
That's right. It was a wonderful experience.
I know. It's amazing. We go back a long time. We won't say how long ago, but it's been... It's been a long time. And now you're an attorney doing this wonderful work. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, Yvonne, what I'm doing now is actually representing veterans in their service-connected disabilities and their request for compensation for their disabilities. And this is quite a challenging area. As you indicated in the opening, there's such a backlog of VA cases that are pending now. In fact, I think the statistic is that as of this month, it's more than 1 million. However, that does not even account for all of the veterans who are suffering with disabilities and are not even yet in the system.
More than a million.
More than 1 million pending VA claim cases, yes, as of this month.
So AT, when the veterans come home and they apply, they have to wait for almost a year even sometimes to find out that they need additional information sent. Is that true?
Yes. When veterans come home, particularly those with known disabilities, of course, PTSD is one of the main ones, or many other disabilities that they may have that may have been determined or diagnosed while they were in the military, thereafter, or even a couple of years after that. When they come home and learn that they are suffering from a disability, then they go to their regional office and make application. And that's when the wait begins. It could take a year. Usually when upon your initial application, the VA will immediately inform the veteran that it will be within a year that they will receive a decision on their case. And sometimes it's longer than that. As you indicated, when they then receive that documentation from the VA regarding that claim after a year, it generally is asking for additional information. And then the veteran is given a year to respond. And again, when they submit the response, the VA is again. So you can see that the whole process could be years before the veteran actually receives a decision on their claim.
And so in the meantime, that veteran is without assistance, correct?
Yes, that very definitely. Many of them are homeless. Many of them, of course, turn to drugs. And of course, with the veterans, there's a high rate of suicide. So it's such a critical area that I think has just not gotten the focus that it needs. Of course, I'm glad to say that the president has really made this one of his top priorities to make certain that veterans receive the services that they need. But it seems that there's something in the system that is keeping it from, running smoothly for veterans.
Yeah, that's what
And
I was going to ask. It's like, why is, I know, we know that bureaucracy tends to take longer and run less smoothly, but why is it taking so long to be responsive to this segment of society?
Yes, well, it is quite a process for the VA to make the determination as to whether the disability is service connected, and then after that's decided, they have to determine whether the seriousness of the disability. So there's a rating system after that. However, what has happened, and are acknowledging now, is that because of having a paper system, there are warehouses that are full to the brim with cases that have not even been evaluated. The VA has committed that they are going to address the backlog, and that by 2015, a veteran will in fact receive information from the VA within a matter of 2 to 3 months. But right now, it can be years. So that without actually representation, it's kind of difficult for a veteran to get through the system to get what they are so entitled to.
My, my. So tell us what you do for the veterans.
Okay. What I do, number one, as a VA certified attorney, I'm not authorized to actually represent a veteran until the VA has made an initial determination. So you see where that puts me on the chain. They have to get through that long process and then contact an attorney if the decision that they receive from the VA is not favorable. However, the focus of my work now is actually to find, educate, advocate, and get veterans into the system. So most of my work is spent addressing veterans groups at churches and community organizations and sponsoring workshops to educate veterans, because although there, as I indicated, more than 1 million veterans who have applied for services that are waiting for an answer, there are many more who are on the street, homeless, perhaps in drug treatment facilities, or perhaps not even having the courage to apply for that benefit. So there are many more who are not even in the system, and that is a focus of the work that I am called to doing, to find, locate, educate, advocate, and get as many veterans as I can in the system. Now, for those veterans who I am certified to represent, they are the veterans who have received a letter, a decision letter from the VA indicating that either that their claim has been denied, or it may be that their claim has been accepted, but at a lower rating than the veteran feels is appropriate for their disability. So those we are legally required to represent, communicate on their behalf with the VA, take the necessary steps to have that decision turned around. And we've been quite successful with a number of veterans in this process.
That's wonderful. Now, let me ask you, how do they find out about you? How do they know, once they've been denied, how do they know that they can come to you to actually kind of work with them as an advocate?
Yes. Well, in the letter of decision from the VA, they will inform them that they can seek legal representation now that the initial decision has been made. And many of them will go to the local veteran service organizations, Vietnam Vets of America, Disabled Veterans of America, but another choice is to seek legal representation through private attorneys, and that's when we are able to get involved. So they will find out about our firm through word of mouth, or I have a website, or usually it's by word of mouth from the veterans that we've been able to be successful in changing their situation around. that makes a big difference. And it's very difficult to do this work without having the training and the experience to do so.
Absolutely. Tell us about some of the veterans that you've helped.
Well, a typical case is a veteran who actually was from the Korean War. So in order to receive benefits, a veteran must have been at least one day active in a wartime. So one of the veterans who was from the Korean War had been fighting his case since 1954, but he was fighting his case in a way that he was not able to win because the VA, for disabilities, you must have a diagnosed case, a diagnosis, in order to receive the benefits. And he was complaining about how they treated him in the VA. And he was going to his congresspersons. And I mean, he has really, literally been fighting it every day, every year. We were able to help him to see that he needed a diagnosis, which in this case, the diagnosis was PTSD. So I arranged for him to be evaluated by a psychiatrist who determined that he did have a diagnosis of PTSD, and the psychiatrist also suggested based on the symptoms that were seen, determined that the rating for this veteran was 100%. So this veteran, pretty much within a couple of months, went from receiving a 10% for actually asthma, a 10% rating for asthma. We were able to put forth to the VA the diagnosis of PTSD, and he went from $128 a month to $3,000 a month for the rest of his life. So that is the kind of case, that is the kind of work that we know is so important that veterans cannot really, it's very difficult for them to do that without legal representation, where you have to know the law, you have to be familiar with the VA process, which is unique only to the VA, and then you have to be prepared or able to apply the law and the VA process to every single veteran's case in a different manner.
That's tremendous, A.T. I mean, to go from $128 to over $3,000 a month for the rest of his life.
You know, what is unfortunate is that it is for the rest of his life. And of course, he's in his 70s now. But what happens also is that once the VA determines that you are eligible, then you will receive retroactive pay based on to the date that you originally applied. Well, unfortunately, although he had been working on his case since '54, he really only legally applied after we assisted him in getting his case with a diagnosis into the system.
So he didn't even realize the steps that were necessary to actually accomplish his goals. He needed that diagnosis, and he didn't have that until, he got that after he started working with you, or you helped him?
After he started working with us.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So
yes,
walk me through the steps. So, okay, so I'm a veteran. I come back with PTSD, and I contact you. Mm-hmm. What happens then?
Okay. All right. At the initial phase, as I indicated, that is work that we do because that is my mission, to find and educate. What I would do with that veteran is, number one, if they have not applied for a claim, I would assist them in getting the claim filed. So after he has filed his claim, then we also assist him in ordering his records. His complete records from the VA, which that's available to any veteran who requests that of the VA. And then we take the step to assist him in the filing, and then we have to wait for the VA to respond. So he actually joins that number of 1 million who are waiting. However, after we have worked with him, or after his case has been filed for a number of months, then we take other steps to make sure that his case comes to the top. And one of those is actually seeking the support of his congressional office, to ask them to inquire about the status of his case. So various methods we have to try to bring the veteran's case out from the million to his getting a response sooner than others.
And so
but you can't do that without representation.
Yeah, so you're able to kind of expedite the process a bit,
Yes, well, through methods that we are able to use, yes. And of course, it's different for each veteran's case.
So what are some of the disabilities that have a high ranking with the VA? What are some of those disabilities?
All right, well, the VA has, okay, there must be over 250 disabilities that they have ratings for. And for each disability, they would give you the symptoms for the level from zero or from 10% to 100%. They would give you the corresponding symptoms that a veteran will have. I have a case of a veteran who has leukemia, and he was in active duty in the Gulf War. And the VA had denied him based on the fact that his leukemia was not service connected. So there again, what we had to do is to identify a physician, or his, actually in this case it was his own physician, to ask him if he could state that the leukemia that he now is suffering from is as likely as not to have been service connected. That is the magic language that the VA doesn't necessarily share this with veterans, but as long as a veteran, as a physician can determine that the diagnosis is as likely as not to have been connected with their military service. And because this particular veteran in the Gulf War was exposed to so many fumes when he was over there, that then his doctor did give that determination, and the VA turned his situation around and determined that he was eligible for compensation.
Ah, that is great. What a blessing.
Yes. Well,
This work must be for you. How has this work impacted your life?
Well, you know my background. I grew up in a home where my father was a minister and my mother, and they always taught us that we had a responsibility to determine why we're here and what we're called to do. And so that all of my career, I have basically had the blessing of doing ministry along with my work. So I consider anything that I'm doing as being mission work that I'm called to doing. When I determined, I was called by several groups to just do a presentation on VA benefits. These were groups of, actually happened to be groups of men, although we know that female veterans face the same problem. So in researching and determining what the steps veterans needed to do to receive their benefits, I just realized that it was an overwhelming process, and it was very difficult for the average veteran to know that process. So in the process of kind of preparing for that, and then working with a number of the veterans that came out of that, I just received a call that this is such an area of disparity that this is what I am now called to doing.
You know, A.T., God is so amazing.
Yes, he
because,
is.
you know, okay, here you are, you've been able to, this journey that you've been on has prepared you for this work.
Yes, it has.
Your social work background, your law background, culminating in this advocacy for the veterans. That is so tremendous. Do you feel as though you're walking now in your destiny, that this is what God has put you on the planet to do?
Without a question, this is where God has placed me. And I am doing my best to make good of what he has given me. And as you indicated, my experience as a social worker, my experience working with families and children, my experience working in foster care and adoptions, my experience working at HUD and housing, all of this has come together and is much needed as I impact the lives of veterans who have been deprived of housing, been deprived of their rightful served compensation.
That's tremendous, A.T. And you seem so fulfilled. You know, I tell our viewers on Urban Report all the time that God has a plan for each of us, that we have a divine destiny, and there's no fulfillment like walking in that destiny. But you first, you know, have to know what it is, and God will reveal it. And all of your experiences lead you onto that path of your destiny. And I'm just so thankful for what you're
Yes.
doing. What would you tell a veteran today coming home from Afghanistan? What would you tell a veteran as to how, you know, somebody that's disabled, a veteran that's disabled? Give us just a capsule, a brief capsule of what you would tell that veteran, how to proceed, where to start.
Okay, all right. The good thing is that the VA is now having a process of educating veterans prior to their discharge, which is good. They are starting at a better place. Although I've got to tell you that only about 20% of veterans really have the knowledge that they need in order to pursue their claims. But what I tell veterans is that the first step, number one, is to really determine whether you sincerely feel that you have a disability that was connected with your service. We know how difficult it is for veterans to reintegrate into the community, so that there are many disabilities that they may not have identified, may be experiencing but haven't identified. So my first step is to recommend them to go to the VA to have a complete physical to determine if there are any disabilities that may be connected with the VA. That is the first step.
Okay.
Once they determine that there is a disability, that there is something that's not right, or the doctor perhaps gave them a diagnosis, then they need to complete the claim. And the claim, they can get assistance for completing the claim either through my office, but I usually refer them to the local veteran service organizations or the local VA regional office. They have people there who will assist them with the initial claim. Although, as I said, we don't turn any veterans away, so whatever they need, we're here to give them that. After they have completed the claim, then of course there's the wait, and we make sure. One of the major things that will prevent a veteran from getting a timely response is that the application is not filled out completely. So a completed claim makes for a more speedy result. So we try to oversee their process to make sure, give them assistance if necessary in filling out the initial claim, and just let them know that when they receive a response from the VA, that they need to contact our office immediately, because it is at that point that we'll be able to assist them.
Now, let me just ask you this, A.T., where you are in the D.C. area, but are you, because you are a VA accredited attorney, may you work with everybody all around the country, or does it have to be localized to your area?
No, because VA law is federal law, then I can represent veterans all over the country. I have a number of veterans who are outside the Maryland, D.C. area, and that is not a problem at all to represent veterans. And most of the work is, you know, they will send me copies of their reports or send me copies of letters that they have received from the VA, and I usually communicate with them by phone or email.
That's tremendous.
Yes, so that is not a problem. Any VA certified attorney can represent any veteran over the country.
And what is your website address? What is your website?
Yes, my website is www.annatowns.com.
AnnaTowns.com.
That is my website, and they can either and on my website, by the way, I do have a link for an application for disability compensation and pension, and I also have a phone number that they can call and speak one of the attorneys in the firm.
That's wonderful. Give us your phone number as well, please.
Okay, that phone number is 202-681-7730.
Okay, give it one more time.
Okay, that's 202-681-7720. And they will be able to talk with one of the attorneys here.
That's great. So they have to make sure that they fill out the application completely. That means don't leave blank. spaces on the
Precisely.
application.
That is a very common problem.
Yes, yes. And then because it might take a year to get back to them to tell them that the application was incomplete. Correct.
That is typically what happens. That is typically what happens. And the veteran, of course, is disappointed that, you know, they're thinking in a year in that letter there's going to be a check. And when the VA tells them that they need additional information or that there's a denial or they're not satisfied with the response, usually the veteran will just stop the process. But that, in fact, is the time that they are in a position or they are authorized to contact our office or any attorney and receive representation.
Now, we have an email address for you, and it's all right if our viewers email you as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, let me just say that on the website, there is a form for VA evaluation. That is a VA evaluation form. And we will assess any veteran's claim and let them know steps that need to be taken in order to, you know, move their claim along. So they can give us information on that claim form and submit it to us. Or you are right, they can certainly email us at law@annatowns.com.
law@annatowns.com.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So
Okay.
what is the cost for this service, AT? What's the general cost for this?
Well, actually, there is no cost to the veteran to receive our services. If we're able to turn their situation around, then the VA will pay the attorney 20% of the veteran's back money. In other words, if the veteran has applied for a claim, that starts the process for him. If after he receives a denial, for instance, and they come to our law firm and we're able to turn that around, then the VA will typically, and this is common for, you know, this is common for all lawyers, that the VA authorizes the attorney to receive 20% of the veteran's back money. But there is no charge to the veteran.
That is tremendous.
Yes.
I'm sure that our viewers that are veterans or friends or family of veterans that are hearing what you're saying are just going to be astounded that they don't even have to pay for this service.
We're here, and we're here to help them, and we don't want anyone to feel that they cannot retain. Typically, veterans or most people feel that in order to retain the services of an attorney, that you've got to pay. Well, for us, it's different. We will reach out, we will help them in any way possible. Money will not be a factor, and we will not be paid unless the veteran's situation is turned around, and the VA will then pay us 20% of the veteran's back money.
That's tremendous. AT, our time is up. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for being with us. May God bless you and your work.
Thank you, Yvonne. It was a pleasure being here today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, once again, our time has slipped away from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next time. You know it just wouldn't be the same without you.